The war had been going on for 300 years. 300 years of death and pain across the stars. The Voidborn and the Galactic Coalition fought over thousands of worlds. No one remembered how it started anymore. They only knew that it never seemed to end. Commander Do-hyun stared at the big screen on the bridge of his ship, the Eternal Dawn. Another battle lost. Another world fallen to the enemy. His shoulders slumped under the weight of too many defeats. His dark hair now had streaks of gray and deep lines marked his once smooth face. "Sir, the latest reports from Sector 9, said Officer Han, handing him a datapad. Do-hyun took it without a word. More bad news. Always more bad news. The Voidborn had taken 3 more systems this month alone. The Coalition forces were being pushed back on all fronts. Science Officer Mina worked at her station, nearby. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel as she looked at the enemy's battle data. She had been trying to find a weakness in their tactics for years. So far, she had found nothing that helped. "Commander," she said, turning in her chair, "the council meeting is tomorrow. Have you prepared your report?" Do-hyun nodded. "Yes. Though I don't know what good it will do, they'll just tell us to hold the line as always." Mina hesitated, then said, "There are rumors, sir. Some say the council is finally considering the Earth option." The bridge went quiet. Everyone turned to look at them. "Earth?" Do-hyun said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They would never." Earth. The forbidden planet. The world that had been kept isolated from the rest of the galaxy for a reason. Humans were different. Everyone knew the stories. "These are desperate times," Mina said simply. Do-hyun walked to the large window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the enemy prepared for their next attack. The Voidborn, creatures made of dark matter who used technology that seemed like magic, had been winning this war since before he was born. "The humans have been left alone for a reason, Mina," he said. "You've seen the historical records, their capacity for violence, their creativity in warfare." He shook his head. "Do we really want to unleash that on the galaxy?" "If the choice is between extinction and asking humans for help," said Mina, "what choice do we really have?" The next day, Do-hyun stood before the Coalition Council. 12 beings from 12 different species sat in a half-circle on raised platforms. They represented the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the Coalition. "Commander Do-hyun," said Counselor Vex, a tall being with blue skin, "your report is troubling. You say we have lost 15% of our territory in the past year alone?" "Yes, Counselor," Do-hyun replied. "The Voidborn are adapting to our tactics faster than ever before. Our best estimates suggest that if things continue as they are, the Coalition will fall within 50 years. Murmurs filled the chamber. 50 years was nothing to species that lived for centuries. "Then perhaps it is time," said Counselor Tiro, the oldest member. Her voice was soft but carried through the room. "Perhaps it is time we reconsider our position on Earth." The chamber erupted in voices, some angry, some afraid. "The humans are savages. They nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times. Their wars were brutal beyond imagination." Counselor Tiro raised her hand and silence fell. "Yes, the humans are dangerous. That is why we have kept them isolated. But the Voidborn are winning this war. We have fought honorably for 300 years, and we are losing. Perhaps we need something dishonorable." Do-hyun watched as the council debated. He had read the old records about Earth. Humans had nearly wiped themselves out many times. Their wars had been savage. They fought with a desperation and creativity that other species found disturbing. Finally, Counselor Vex turned to him. "Commander, you have fought the Voidborn for 30 years. What is your opinion on this matter?" Do-hyun took a deep breath. "I believe that contacting Earth is dangerous. The humans may refuse to help us. They may join the Voidborn instead. Or they may help us and then turn on us once the Voidborn are defeated." He paused. "But I also believe that without a significant change, this war is already lost. The Voidborn grow stronger every day. We grow weaker. The council was quiet, waiting. If we are going to die anyway, Do-hyun continued, we might as well try something new. 3 days later, Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn as it prepared to jump to the Sol system. With him were Mina and Ambassador Cora, a skilled diplomat who would lead the first contact team. Are you sure about this, Commander? Cora asked, nervousness clear in her voice. No, Do-hyun admitted. But I'm sure about what happens if we don't try. The ship's engines hummed as they prepared for the jump. Earth had been left alone for the past century. The coalition had placed beacons around the Sol system warning ships to stay away. No one had made contact with humans since they had started to venture beyond their own solar system. What do we know about current Earth society? Mina asked, checking her datapad. They united under a single government 70 years ago, after a series of climate wars, Cora said. They call it the Earth Union. They've sent explorers to nearby stars but haven't established colonies yet. Their technology is less advanced than ours, but developing quickly. And their military? Do-hyun asked. Cora looked uncomfortable. They maintain a unified defense force. While their weapons are less advanced, they have unusual tactical doctrines. They still train for ground combat extensively, which most civilized worlds abandoned centuries ago. Do-hyun nodded. That matched with the historical records. Humans like to fight up close. They didn't rely solely on technology or ships. They trained to fight with their bodies with small weapons. It was considered primitive by coalition standards. Jump preparation complete, Commander, reported the navigator. Do-hyun took his seat. Proceed. The stars outside the window blurred, then vanished as the ship entered jump space. Do-hyun closed his eyes. In a few moments, they would arrive at Earth. They would ask these strange, violent creatures for help against an enemy that had defeated the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Was he making a terrible mistake, or was he about to save the coalition? The ship exited jump space with a slight shudder. On the main screen, a blue-green planet appeared. Earth, home of humanity. We're being scanned, Mina reported. Their orbital platforms have detected us. Open. Communications, Do-hyun ordered. Let's introduce ourselves before they decide to shoot. As the communications officer worked, Do-hyun stared at the planet. So much depended on what happened next. 300 years of war might end in salvation, or in final defeat. Channel open, sir, said the communications officer. Do-hyun stepped forward. This is Commander Do-hyun of the Galactic Coalition vessel Eternal Dawn. We come in peace seeking dialogue with the leaders of Earth. The galaxy is at war, and we need your help. There was a long pause. Then a voice responded, speaking the coalition's common language with a strange accent. This is Earth Union Defense Command. We've been wondering when you'd finally come talk to us. We've been watching your war for some time now. A pause. Let's discuss how we can help you end it. Do-hyun and Mina exchanged glances. The humans had been watching how. The war had raged for 300 years, but maybe, just maybe, that was about to change. The Earth Union headquarters stood tall in what was once called Geneva. It was a massive building of glass and steel that reflected the blue sky above. Inside, leaders from all parts of Earth gathered in the main meeting hall. President Jin-ho adjusted his formal jacket as he prepared to meet the aliens. After years of watching distant stars and picking up strange signals, Earth was finally going to have official first contact. The coalition had kept them at arm's length for decades. Now they were here asking for help. Are we ready? Jin-ho asked his advisors. Defense Minister Soo-min nodded. She was a short woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for being tough. Security is in place. The coalition delegation will arrive in 5 minutes. And Ambassador Tae-won? All ready. In the reception area, said Soo-min. He's reviewed all the data we have on the coalition species. Jin-ho took a deep breath. This meeting would change the course of human history. For years, Earth had secretly observed the Great War in the stars. Their long-range sensors had picked up battles and refugee ships. They knew about the Voidborn and the coalition, even though no official contact had been made. Let's not show our hand too quickly, Jin-Ho reminded his team. We want to hear what they have to say first. The coalition delegation materialized in the reception area in a flash of blue light. Ambassador Cora led the group with Commander Do-hyun and Science Officer Mina behind her. They wore formal coalition uniforms in silver and blue. Ambassador Tae-won stepped forward to greet them. He was tall for a human, with a calm face that revealed nothing of his thoughts. Welcome to Earth, he said in perfect coalition common language. I am Ambassador Tae-won of the Earth Union. Cora's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected the humans to speak their language. Thank you for receiving us, she replied with a formal bow. I am Ambassador Cora of the Galactic Coalition, with me are Commander Do-hyun and Science Officer Mina. Tae-won bowed in return. The President and Council are waiting to meet you. Please follow me. As they walked through the building, Do-hyun watched the humans they passed. They looked ordinary enough. 2 arms, 2 legs, walking upright like many species in the galaxy. But there was something in the way they moved, a contained energy that made him uneasy. They entered the main hall where President Jin-Ho and his council waited. The room was large but simple, with a round table in the center. Jin-Ho stood as they entered. Welcome to Earth, he said. We've been waiting a long time for this day. Cora stepped forward. President Jin-Ho, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. The Galactic Coalition comes seeking your help in a matter of grave importance. Jin-Ho gestured to the table. Please, sit. Tell us why the Coalition has suddenly decided to contact us after keeping Earth isolated for so long. The delegation sat, and Cora began to explain. She told them about the 300-year war with the Voidborn. She explained how the enemy consumed planets, turning them into dead husks. She described the Coalition's losses, and their fear that the war might soon be lost completely. We need fresh ideas, Cora said finally. New approaches. Your species has a unique history of warfare that might give us an advantage. Jin-Ho listened without showing any emotion. When Cora finished, he looked at Defense Minister Su-min. Minister, your thoughts? Su-min leaned forward. You've been fighting this war for 300 years using the same tactics. Your battle records show formal engagements, announced, attacks and defensive positions that rarely change. The Voidborn have learned to predict your every move. Do-hyun was surprised by her knowledge. How do you know about our battle records? Jin-Ho smiled slightly. We may have been isolated, Ambassador, but we are not blind. Our deep space monitoring has picked up transmissions and battle debris for decades. We've been studying your war from a distance. Mina looked shocked. That shouldn't be possible with your level of technology. Perhaps, said Jin-Ho, you underestimate us. The room fell silent for a moment. Then Cora spoke again. Will you help us? The Coalition can offer Earth full membership, access to advanced technology and protection. Protection? Su-min laughed. It was a sharp sound without humor. The Coalition can barely protect itself, Minister, Jin-Ho warned softly. He turned back to the aliens. Before we decide, we need to understand exactly what you're asking of us. Do you want our technology, our resources, our soldiers? Do-hyun spoke up. We want your perspective. Your species approaches warfare differently than any in the Coalition. You think outside normal boundaries. You mean we fight dirty, said Su-min bluntly. Do-hyun didn't deny it. The Coalition fights with honor. The Voidborn have no honor, but we continue to fight as if they did. It's not working. Jin-Ho stood and walked to the large window overlooking the city. You've kept Earth isolated because you fear us. Now you ask for our help because you fear something else more. He turned back to face them. If we help you, what guarantee do we have that you won't isolate us again once the war is won? Cora looked uncomfortable. I cannot promise what future councils might decide. At least you're honest, said Jin-Ho. Let me be equally honest. Humanity has spent its history fighting itself. We nearly destroyed our own planet more than once. We learned hard lessons about war and peace. He paused. But we also learned how to win at any cost when our survival is at stake. He returned to the table. We will help you, but not as a client race begging for membership in your coalition. We will help you as equals, with full rights and representation. Korra looked at Do-hyun. This was more than they had authority to promise. We would need to consult with the full council, said Korra carefully. Of course, Jin-ho replied. In the meantime, we will begin reviewing your complete battle records. Minister Sumin will assemble a team of our best military minds to develop new strategies. How long will you need? Asked Do-hyun. Sumin answered. Give us 1 month of your time. We'll show you what humans can do. After the meeting, the Earth Council gathered in a private room. Jin-ho looked at each of his advisors. Well, he asked, what do we think? They're desperate, said Sumin. They wouldn't have come to us if they had any other option. Can we trust them? Asked another counselor. Jin-ho considered this. Trust isn't necessary, they need us. That's better than trust. Their technology is impressive, said Taiwan. If we help them win this war, we gain access to it. Earth could leap forward centuries in development. And if we refuse, someone asked, then we wait for the Voidborn to finish off the coalition and come for us next, said Sumin grimly. Make no mistake, this war will reach Earth eventually. Better to fight it on our terms than wait for it to find us. Jin-ho nodded. Agreed. Sumin, assemble your team. I want our best military strategists, historians, and unconventional thinkers. This is humanity's chance to prove ourselves to the galaxy. What approach should we take? Asked Taewon. Jin-ho smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. We teach them how humans really fight, not with honor or rules, but to win. He looked around the table. The coalition has spent 300 years trying to win a clean war. We're going to show them how to win a dirty one. As the meeting ended, Jin-ho stood at the window again, looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there, an enemy that had never encountered humans was about to learn a hard lesson. Humanity was joining the war. And things were about to change dramatically. 1 month later, the massive war room in the coalition headquarters buzzed with activity. Military leaders from 100 different species gathered around the central platform. They had come to hear what the humans had planned. Defense Minister Sumin stood at the center with her team, Colonel Jun, Major Wan, and Captain Sun. They looked small next to the tall, colorful aliens around them, but they did not seem intimidated. Admiral Zex, the Supreme Commander of Coalition Forces, towered over everyone. His blue skin gleamed under the lights as he addressed the crowd. Our guests from Earth have spent the past month studying our war records, he said. Today they will present their strategy. I ask you all to listen with open minds, no matter how unusual their ideas might seem. He nodded to Sumin, who stepped forward. She wore a simple black uniform with no decoration except for a small Earth emblem on her collar. Thank you, Admiral, she said. What I am about to show you will change everything about how you fight this war. She activated the holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared, with red areas showing Voidborn territory and blue showing coalition space. There was much more red than blue. Your first mistake, Sumin said bluntly, is trying to defend every system at once. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Admiral Zex frowned. We cannot abandon civilian worlds, he said. I'm not suggesting abandonment, Sumin replied. I'm suggesting we change how we think about this war. She zoomed in on a sector near the front lines. You position your fleets like this. The map showed coalition ships spread evenly across multiple systems. The Voidborn attack here. A red arrow cut through the thin defensive line. And you lose another system. She reset the display. Instead, we do this. The blue dots representing coalition ships suddenly clustered together. We concentrate our forces. When the Voidborn attack, we hit them with everything. An alien commander spoke up. But then other systems would be left undefended. Yes, said Sumin, for a short time. But the Voidborn would lose an entire fleet instead of just being pushed back. You've been fighting defensively for 300 years. It's time to attack. Colonel Jun stepped forward next. He was tall, for a human, with a serious face. "We've studied the void-born attack patterns," he said. "Everyone assumed they are a hive mind, all connected. But look at this." He showed recordings of different battles. "See how each void-born fleet acts slightly differently? They have commanders, leaders who make decisions. They have a chain of command." He pointed to patterns in the data that no one had noticed before. "Cut off the head, and the body falls." The room was silent as the aliens processed this information. Do-hyun, who had been working closely with the humans, shook his head in amazement. "In 3 centuries, how did we never see this?" he asked. Sumin's answer was simple. "Because you were fighting to maintain civilization. Humans remember what it's like to fight for survival." Major Huan took over the presentation. He was younger than the others with bright, intense eyes. "Your electronic systems are advanced but predictable," he said. "The Voidborn have learned your codes and signals. We need to change them constantly." Captain Sun, a woman with short hair and a quiet voice, added, "We've developed new encryption that the Voidborn will not expect. We can blind their sensors and confuse their targeting systems." As the presentation continued, the alien commanders became more and more uncomfortable. The humans suggested tactics that many found shocking. Fake retreats to lead enemy ships into traps, using civilian ships as decoys, with no civilians aboard, attacking during diplomatic meetings, spreading false information to confuse enemy intelligence, targeting enemy command ships instead of fighting fair battles. "This is not how wars are fought in civilized space," one commander protested. "With respect," Sumin replied, her voice like steel, "this is exactly how wars are won." Admiral Zex had been quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. "What you suggest goes against 300 years of coalition military doctrine." "And how has that doctrine worked for you?" asked Sumin. "You've lost half the galaxy. In another 50 years you'll lose the rest." Zex looked around the room. "I need to discuss this with my commanders, alone." The humans nodded and left the war room. Outside, Sumin turned to her team. "They'll resist," she said. "It's hard to change after so long." Colonel Jun nodded. "They see warfare as a formal exchange, like a game with rules. They don't understand that the Voidborn aren't playing the same game." "Will they accept our plan?" asked Captain Sun. "They don't have a choice," said Sumin. "They're losing, they know it." Inside the war room, the debate was heated. Many commanders were outraged by the human proposals. "They want us to fight without honor," said one. "They suggest we use tricks and deception instead of facing our enemy directly," said another. Admiral Zex let them argue for a while. Then he raised his hand for silence. "I have commanded our forces for 70 years, he said. "I have seen us lose world after world. My own home planet was taken by the Voidborn 20 years ago." He paused. "I am tired of giving honorable funerals to brave soldiers. I am tired of watching our territory shrink year after year." He walked to the holographic display, which still showed the human battle plans. "The humans are right," he said finally. "We fight as if the Voidborn share our values. They do not. They consume worlds without mercy. Perhaps it is time we fought without mercy as well." Do-hyun stepped forward. "Sir, if we do this, we will change. The coalition has always stood for civilization, for fighting with honor, even against a terrible enemy. And we will die with honor if we continue," said Zex. "Or we can live with a few stains on our conscience." He looked around the room. "I choose to live. I choose to win." One by one, the commanders nodded. Some did so reluctantly, others with relief. They had been losing for so long that many were ready to try anything. "Bring the humans back in," ordered Zex. When Sumin and her team returned, Zex faced them directly. "We accept your strategy," he said. "But I have one question. Why are you so good at this? At finding ways to fight that we never considered?" Sumin's face was serious. "Because, for most of our history, humans fought other humans. We had to understand how our enemies thought because they thought like us. We had to be creative because our enemies were just as smart. We had to be ruthless because the alternative was defeat. She looked Admiral Zex in the eyes. The Voidborn are just another enemy. Different, yes, but they can be beaten if you're willing to fight on their terms, not yours. Zex nodded slowly. Then let us begin. How much time do you need to prepare? 2 weeks, said Sumin. Then we launch Operation Thunderclap. Such a dramatic name, said one of the commanders with disapproval. Major Juan smiled. It was not a friendly smile. The name fits. When it hits, the Voidborn won't know what happened until it's too late. As the meeting ended, Do-hyun walked beside Mina. Do you think this will work? He asked quietly. Mina looked at the humans as they left the room, already deep in discussion about the next phase of their plan. I don't know, she admitted. But for the first time in my life, I think we might actually have a chance of winning this war. And what happens after that? Asked Do-hyun. If the humans help us win, what place will they have in the galaxy? What will we have unleashed? Mina had no answer. No one did. The galaxy was about to change, for better or worse. The humans had joined the war, and nothing would ever be the same again. 2 weeks passed quickly. The coalition and human forces worked day and night to prepare. Ships were moved into new positions. Weapons were modified. Soldiers trained in new tactics. The day of the attack arrived. On the bridge of the Eternal, Dawn, now the command center for Operation Thunderclap, Commander Do-hyun watched the final preparations. The ship hummed with tension and excitement. All strike teams report ready, said Officer Han from his station. Do-hyun nodded and looked at Admiral Zex, who stood tall beside him. Sir, we await your command. Zex's face was solemn. Begin Operation Thunderclap. Do-hyun pressed a button on his command console. All units execute Phase 1. Across the galaxy, the carefully prepared plan sprang into action. Unlike previous coalition attacks, which were direct and announced, this one began with deception. Major Juan led the Special Forces team aboard the captured Voidborn ship. 20 humans and 30 aliens from various coalition species crowded in the dark hold. They all wore special suits designed to hide their life signs from Voidborn sensors. Remember your training, Juan said quietly. We move fast. We stick to the plan. If something goes wrong, we adapt. The aliens in the team looked nervous. They were used to direct combat, not infiltration missions. The humans seemed calm, almost eager. Their ship approached the massive Voidborn command nexus, a space station as big as a small moon. It floated in the darkness between stars, surrounded by a fleet of Voidborn warships. Captain Min, piloting the captured ship, sent the stolen access codes. There was a tense moment of waiting. Then the response came. They were cleared to dock. They bought it, Min whispered. We're going in. As their ship entered the docking bay, Juan checked his weapon one last time. It was a special design created by human and coalition scientists working together. A gun that fired projectiles made of a material that disrupted Voidborn energy fields. Remember, he told his team, we have one job. Reach the central chamber and place the devices. Everything else is secondary. The ship settled onto the docking platform. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the attack began. Meanwhile, coalition forces launched simultaneous attacks on 70 different fronts across the galaxy. This was unprecedented. The coalition had never attacked more than 5 systems at once in 300 years of war. But these weren't normal attacks. Each one used tactics the Voidborn had never seen before. In the Rigel system, coalition ships sent out false distress signals, drawing Voidborn vessels into a trap. Hidden mines exploded, disabling dozens of enemy ships. In the Cygnus sector, special electronic warfare ships broadcast signals that confused Voidborn navigation systems. Enemy vessels crashed into each other or flew off course. Near the Orion Nebula, a small fleet of coalition ships seemed to retreat in disarray. The Voidborn commanders, following their usual tactics, pursued them. They didn't notice the larger coalition force hiding behind a nearby moon until it was too late. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Commander Do-hyun and Science Officer Mina watched the battle reports come in. "It's working," Mina said with amazement. "The Voidborn don't know how to respond to these tactics." "Look at this," said Officer Han. He pointed to a display showing a Voidborn fleet near the Tau sector. "They're trying to regroup, but our jamming signals are preventing them from communicating with their command center." Do-hyun nodded. "That was Captain Sun's idea. She said if we could block their communications, their individual units wouldn't know what to do." Admiral Zex watched silently. After a while, he turned to Do-hyun. "These humans," he said quietly. "They fight like demons. I've never seen anything like it." "They're survivors," Do-hyun replied. "Their whole history prepared them for this moment." Inside, the Voidborn Command Nexus, Major Hwan's team fought their way through dark corridors. The Voidborn defenders, shadowy figures that seemed to shift between solid and gaseous forms, tried to stop them, but the special weapons were effective. "Section 3 cleared," reported Sergeant Tay over the comm. "Moving to Checkpoint Delta." They had lost 8 members of the team already, 3 humans and 5 aliens. But they were making progress, pushing deeper into the station than any coalition force had ever gone before. "How much farther?" asked one of the alien soldiers, a tall being named Krell. "2 more sections," Hwan replied. "Then we reached the central chamber." They moved forward again, weapons ready. The Voidborn seemed to be getting more desperate, throwing more defenders at them. That was a good sign. It meant they were getting close to something important. After another fierce battle, they reached a massive door. According to their intelligence, this was the entrance to the central command chamber. "Plant the charges," ordered Hwan. 2 team members rushed forward and placed explosives on the door. Everyone took cover. The blast was loud in the confined space, but effective. The door buckled and fell. Hwan was the first through the opening, weapon raised. What he saw inside made him stop short. "What is it?" asked Krell, coming up behind him. "Not what we expected," Hwan said. The chamber was filled with glowing tubes and strange machines. In the center was not a group of Voidborn leaders, but a series of artificial constructs, machines that pulsed with dark energy. "They're not alive," said one of the science officers on the team. "At least not in the way we understand life. These are artificial intelligence constructs, the true commanders of the Voidborn forces." Hwan stared at the machines. After 300 years of war, this was the first time anyone had seen the real enemy. Not shadow creatures from another dimension, but advanced AI systems that controlled them like puppets. "Continue with the mission," he ordered. "Place the devices as planned." Team members moved forward, attaching small devices to each of the AI constructs. These weren't bombs. They were something much more sophisticated. "Devices planted," reported. Sergeant Tae-hwan activated his comm. "Control center secured," he reported to the Eternal Dawn. "Captain Sun, execute Phase Omega." On the Eternal Dawn, Captain Sun had been waiting for this moment. Weeks earlier, she had created a special computer virus, a program designed to infiltrate and disable the Voidborn command systems. "Executing Phase Omega," she said. Her fingers flew over the control panel. The virus, carried by the device's major, Hwan's team had planted, spread through the Voidborn network. Across the galaxy, something remarkable began to happen. Voidborn ships suddenly stopped fighting. Some powered down completely. Others began to attack each other, their targeting systems corrupted by the virus. "It's working," Mina exclaimed, watching the displays. "The Voidborn forces are in chaos." Do-hyun could hardly believe what he was seeing. In every sector, coalition forces were gaining ground. The Voidborn, for the first time in 300 years, were retreating. "Send the signal to all fleets," ordered Admiral Zex. "Press the advantage. Don't give them time to recover." As the battle continued, Do-hyun felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that they were finally winning, amazement at how quickly the tide had turned, and a lingering unease about what would come next. The humans had changed everything in just 2 weeks. They had done what the coalition couldn't do in 3 centuries. It was incredible. And a little frightening. "Admiral," said Officer Han suddenly, "Major Hwan's team is requesting extraction. They've completed their mission and are Heading back to their ship. Send them our fastest escort, Zex ordered. Get them out of there safely. Do-hyun looked at the time display. Operation Thunderclap had been active for just under 3 hours. In that short time, they had accomplished more than in the previous 300 years. The war that had seemed endless was suddenly, unexpectedly, nearing its end. And it was all because of the humans and their different way of thinking about warfare. 3 hours, Mina said softly as if reading his thoughts. Just 3 hours to change the course of galactic history. Let's hope it's a change for the better, Do-hyun replied. 3 hours and 17 minutes after Operation Thunderclap began, the last organized void-born resistance collapsed. Across the galaxy, their ships drifted powerless in space or fled in random directions. Some self-destructed, others simply shut down. The war that had raged for 3 centuries was over. It ended not with a grand final battle, but with confusion and chaos on one side and careful planning on the other. On the Eternal Dawn, the bridge crew sat in stunned silence. They had expected the operation to gain them an advantage, perhaps push the Voidborn back in a few key systems. No one had expected total victory. Admiral Zex stood motionless, staring at the tactical displays showing coalition forces advancing everywhere. After a long moment, he turned to Commander Do-hyun. Contact all fleet commanders, he said, his voice strangely quiet. Tell them to secure the liberated systems. Priority on helping civilian populations and destroying any remaining Voidborn technology. Do-hyun nodded and gave the orders. Then he looked at Science Officer Mina. Is it really over? He asked. Mina was analyzing data from across the galaxy. The virus completely disabled their command structure. Without central coordination, their forces can't function. They're not designed to act independently. She looked up with wonder in her eyes. Yes, Commander. I believe it's really over. Captain Sun entered the bridge. She looked tired but satisfied. The virus worked better than expected, she said. It didn't just disrupt their communications. It rewrote their core programming. They won't be able to rebuild their network. Admiral Zex approached her. Captain Sun, he said formally, the Coalition owes you and all the humans a debt we can never repay. Sun shook her head. We did what needed to be done, what anyone would have done in our position. No, said Zex. Not anyone. We fought for 300 years and never came close to this solution. He looked around at his crew. We need to learn from this. We need to understand how humans think, how they approach problems so differently. First, said Do-hyun, we need to make sure the victory is secure. Major Hwan's team is returning from the command nexus. They'll have valuable information about the Voidborn leadership. Zex nodded. Yes. And then we need to begin the hard work of rebuilding. 1 week later, the Coalition Grand Assembly gathered on the capital world of Arcturus Prime. Representatives from thousands of worlds filled the enormous hall. At the front, on a raised platform, stood the Coalition Council and the human delegation, led by President Jin Ho. The room buzzed with excitement and relief. After centuries of war and fear, there was finally peace, but there was also uncertainty about what would come next. Council leader Tiro called for silence, and the room quieted. Today, she said, her voice carrying to every corner, we celebrate a victory many of us thought we would never see. The Voidborn threat has been neutralized. Our worlds are safe again. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Tiro waited for them to quiet before continuing. This victory would not have been possible without our newest allies. She gestured to the human delegation. The people of Earth joined our war just weeks ago, and in hours, they helped us achieve what we could not in centuries. President Jin Ho stepped forward. He wore formal Earth Union clothes and looked calm despite all the alien eyes watching him. The Earth Union is honored to have helped end this conflict, he said. We came late to this war, but we are glad we arrived in time. To make a difference, Admiral Zex stepped forward next. I have served the Coalition fleet for 70 years, he said. I have seen countless brave soldiers die fighting the Voidborn. I never thought I would live to see the end of this war. He turned to face the human delegation. We owe you a debt that can never be repaid. Jinho nodded in acknowledgement. We are grateful for your words, Admiral, but now we have a request of our own. The assembly grew quiet, curious about what the humans would ask for. More territory? Special status? Advanced technology? Humanity has shown you how we fight, Jinho continued. Now we ask that you show us how you live, your art, your philosophy, your cooperation across species and cultures. These are things we still struggle with. We joined your war. Now, we wish to join your peace. Murmurs of surprise ran through the crowd. This was not what they had expected. Council, Leader Tiro smiled. Your request honors us, President Jinho. The Coalition welcomes Earth as a full member, with all rights and responsibilities. We have much to learn from each other. From the gallery, Do-hyun watched with Mina at his side. They surprise me again, he said quietly. I expected them to demand more. Perhaps that's another lesson we can learn from them, Mina replied. They know that victory in war is nothing without peace to follow it. Later, during the celebration that followed the formal ceremony, Defense Minister Soo-min stood with Major Hwan and Captain Soon on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The sky was filled with lights and flying craft, people from 100, worlds celebrating together. What happens now? Asked Hwan. Earth has proven itself. The galaxy knows what humans are capable of. That's what worries me, said Sun. Will they fear us now? Will they see us as a new threat? Soo-min considered this. Perhaps, but we showed them something important about humans today. What's that? Asked Hwan. That we fight hardest for people we consider our own, she said. The Coalition is our own now. We're part of something bigger than Earth. Below them in one of the city's parks, a group of children played together, human children and alien children, inventing new games that mixed elements from a dozen different worlds. That's the future, said Soo-min, pointing to them. Not war, not conquest. Just different peoples learning from each other, growing together. Sun nodded slowly. I hope you're right. There will be challenges, Soo-min admitted. There always are when different cultures meet, but I think we've earned the right to try. On the other side of the city, President Jinho met privately with the Coalition Council. The formal ceremonies were over, and now they could speak more, openly. There's something you should know, Jinho said. Something about the Voidborn. Council Leader Tiro looked concerned. What is it? Our scientists have been studying the data from their command nexus, said Jinho. The Voidborn weren't a natural species. They were created, thousands of years ago, by another civilization that has since disappeared. The council members looked shocked. Created? As weapons? Asked one. Jinho nodded. We believe so. They were designed to consume and expand. They had no other purpose. Why tell us this now? Asked another counselor. Because we need to search for their creators, said Jinho. If one ancient civilization made such a weapon, others might have done the same. The galaxy may face other threats we don't yet know about. Tiro nodded slowly. Yes, we will organize research missions. Together, we will explore and prepare. Jinho smiled. That's what we hoped you would say. Humans are good at fighting wars. Yes, but we'd rather build and discover. Now we can do that as part of the Coalition. As the meeting ended, Jinho looked out at the alien sky, so different from Earth's. The stars looked strange from this angle, but they were the same stars that had always been there waiting for humanity to reach them. The war was over. In just a few hours, humans had helped end a conflict that had lasted for centuries. But Jinho knew that was just the beginning. The real work, building a lasting peace, creating a place for humanity among the stars, was only just starting. And somewhere, deep in space, news was spreading to other civilizations. A new species had joined the galactic community. They had ended a 300-year war in hours. They were called humans, and they were a force unlike any the galaxy had seen before.